Cool. Well, I guess I'm going to kick this off. I'm going to do a little design work, guys. If you guys have questions at any time with that, I think this is going to be a good general overview for a lot of you when we talk about creating a component structure for an assembly and then looking at the nesting side of Fusion and some really neat tricks with creating ToolPaths. So let's dive into this. Let me get my screen switched over. Now you're going to notice, guys, I put the chat up here as well for you. Let me know. Do you guys like it? Do you hate it? There's really no good spot to put it, if you could imagine, because by the time we start popping out windows and having design trees in the way, we'll never be able to see it. But I did get a couple of comments about when we do the highlight reel. You guys are curious what's asked in chat. So let's kick this off. So in this case, I am debating on building a garden trommel, which would allow me to filter out dirt and rocks and sticks and leaves in my garden. Given that I did a lot of this work by hand this year, I hated it. So let's go ahead and design this. Now, the idea is we're going to make this with a couple of pieces of plywood. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of things in and out, but I am going to start with what I like to call a proof of concept, especially when I have no idea on what I want to do. So very first thing I'm going to do is save my file, of course. And let's go ahead and call this the trommel. And this is just my test, right? So the way I kind of see it is I need basically two wheels in some type of shape inside. So that's more or less what I'm going to design. Now, for a lot of you out there, what you're going to see me do is going to be completely against the way you should do this. Again, this is a proof of concept type of workflow. So as you can see, I've created two cylinders. I'm actually going to create a third cylinder or circle, not cylinder. And with this, we can go ahead and extrude this out. Now, what I'm looking for is to basically have an end plate. And then also outside of that end plate, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I have more or less the structure that's going to spin. Now, depending on which way you go with this, you're going to get different results in the design tree. Now, I'm not plugging in dimensions. We're going to do that here again in a second. But as you can see, I could do another new body. And with that, let's get our sketch out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and edit that sketch. Again, this is where I go back and add my dimensions, knowing I'm going to probably pick up a 4x8 sheet of plywood. Maybe I make the OD of this thing 30 inches. And then maybe my inner diameter now is going to be something like, I don't know, like 20. Let's go 24 to start. That'll give us about a 3-inch width on the outside. Lastly, that inner circle is going to be pretty close to that 24. We're just going to leave it at 23.5. The idea is we're going to have at some point runners in there or rails and styles to support things. That's basically going to be a mesh screen, right? So as you guys can see, with that all extruded out, I now need to, one, fix my first extrude because I don't need that inner circle. And what I'm doing is editing my design tree to do so. The second one is basically creating the length to that profile, right? So again, let's say we're going to go 24. And then I am going to mirror across everything. So again, this is going to be symmetrical, which is going to allow me to basically repeat and reuse a lot of this stuff to create that profile. Again, as you can see, I can roll this back one step if I wanted. I could have mirrored the other piece as well. Again, using that center line as my plane. And now I have basically my two outside rings, and then lastly, my center section, right? So a lot of questions I get always off the start is, let's say, for example, I wanted to flatten the center section, right? Maybe you're going to use a roller type thing. Fusion does not handle sheet metal components that are flat. I will make a point to go ahead and make some content on that. Again, the idea is this is going to be nothing more than chicken wire, right? But as you can see from a standing of how I have this built, there's a lot of different ways, again, as I could go back and create a lot of different features and use a lot of different tools. Now, one good thing is if I'm going to pattern this, I could go ahead and pattern that kind of support ring. I could pick my direction and I could put in based on the extended amount, right? So we went 24 times 2. We go ahead and say minus 48. I would like to put maybe 4 or 5 of those. Again, as you can see, we now have those ribs to which everything is going to attach to and support. So from a proof of concept standpoint, I am generating and I'm starting to create what it is that I want, right? So at any time I could always go back, maybe I'm now going to add in a rectangle. And what this rectangle is like I said, this is going to be basically like the rail or the style. Or if you guys don't know what a trommel is, go watch Gold Rush. It's a great show on Friday nights. But as you can see, we're going to go ahead and throw in a coincidence in this corner to get it on the circle. I'm going to give it a total width. Maybe this is going to be a 2-inch wide piece of material by 1 inch tall, right? So again, based off everything we're doing, we just want to see if this is going to work, right? So again, we could do that -48. As you can see, that's going to be a new body. If we're playing the pattern game once again, new pattern, circular of a body. And then we're going to put those around the inside of our actual trommel, right? So let's go 6 of them. So as you can see, everything I've done so far is wrong. And the reason why it's wrong for a lot of you out there is because we have constructed everything as bodies, and all these bodies are in what is considered a singular component, right? So from an assembly standpoint, this is not the right way to do it. And what would happen is if we start to create drawings, we're not going to see the information like I need quantity 6, for example, of these rails, right? So this is why in my brain, it's much easier to always proof of concept something and keep it all set up. WTF GH400. Hi, how's it going, man? I appreciate it. Greetings from Germany. Thank you for the love on the videos. I will do my best to keep it going. I'm fighting a little sickness if you guys are getting in here late. At any time, if you guys want to cut me off to answer your questions or problems, feel free to chime in. So as you can see, like I said, is my end goal is really going to be is does this profile work? Does the shape work? This is kind of a placeholder or a proof of concept, right? I don't have to concern myself so much with making it extremely functional, but now we could shift gears and redesign this using quite a bit difference. Homer saying an aloha. I'm assuming Homer's in Hawaii, right? So if I was to shift gears and actually want to do this for real this time, we're going to add a lot more detail, and you guys are going to see why with the nesting, because I would like these rings to actually be made of parts of rings that are easily stacked together, right? And then we can hold them together with drywall screws like any real champion would. So let's start a new file. Now, the big difference you're going to see me do here is one, I'm still going to do the save right off the start. So let's go ahead and do our trommel, right? Ireland, even better. I wish I lived in Hawaii some days. I don't know. There's more people in Hawaii, I think, than there is my entire state. So as you can see, we're going to do our brand new file, trommel. This is where very rarely do I recommend people to go ahead and create or change their default settings. But if you're doing design work in assemblies, I highly recommend that you put the new component and you pin this to your toolbar and make it your first thing in steps, right? So again, setting you up for success, create a component, then you go along your process using a left to right workflow. Again, we've already proof of concept, kind of what I want. This is going to go on rollers, guys. So let's start our design process. So again, we've now pinned the new component up here to the top left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say new component. Now, this is the most important thing you will ever do in the design side of Fusion is when I create a component, one, I can name it at any time, but the placement of your component, as well as whether or not you activate it, affects everything. So this new component is an active, which means anything I do will correspond to just that component. So now what you'll notice is I'm going to go ahead and create my sketch like always. We're going to go ahead and just do a lovely circle from center. Again, we're going to just do the 2 outer circles. I'm not going to mess with the inner circle. Again, that's just rolled chicken wire, nothing fancy, right? So from here, I can add my dimensions in. For those of you wondering, I'm using quite a bit of hotkeys here. Hotkeys will speed up your workflow quite a bit. There we go. Oh, 38. That needs to be 30. And then 20 seconds. What is a component? Homer, I'm going to go ahead and show you that here in a second. You'll notice once we build this assembly out, the value of a component. But when I created a component inside of a component, it's turned me from an individual part or an individual component into an assembly. So again, staying on track, what we want to do, we of course are going to put a line up center. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these rib pieces basically in a quantity of 8 to get one full circle. I'm going to double stack them, but they're going to be based on 45 degrees each, right? Or actually 90 degrees. My math is a little off. And if you're wondering what I'm doing here is I am simply just aligning this so that no matter what I do, we always stay in that 45 at the 12 o'clock position. So basically, this is what I am going to nest later. And to get to Homer's question here real quick, let's go ahead and extrude this. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to make these out of probably 1/2 inch plywood, pretty cheap. And as you can see, Homer, we have a body in a component. Now we can have a lot of different things like sketches, planes, cuts, all of that fun stuff. But what we're mainly looking for is to always only retain one body inside of one component. I like to think of a design structure as more of a file cabinet. This is the cabinet. This is possibly a drawer or a folder in the cabinet. And then everything pertaining to that drawer or file is right here in real time. So again, is if I wanted to now take this one rib and I wanted to create more of them, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that. So again, we're going to go ahead and do a copy and we're going to paste at the top level. What you're going to see is now we have component 1 of 1, 1 meaning 2, meaning there is now 2 in play here, right? So again, as you could see, upon making a copy and paste, I now have 2 identical ones. So Tim out there, heard anything about the future of adaptive turning or face grooves? Tim, we could dive into that if you want to provide me a part. I'm happy to show it or try to wing it on the fly. So again, so Homer knows each component has an individual body. These two are actually tied together at the end of the day, making my life much easier because if I modify one, the second one will follow suit. If I create a drawing right now, we're going to see quantity 2. But I'm going to undo this. And the reason why I'm going to undo this is because we're still going to do a pattern. We are going to pattern the component itself. Here's the component. Here's my center of rotation. I want 4 of them. And now you'll see 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? So again, the idea is we have now created that first ring. Again, we're going to double stack and offset these. But simply enough, that is a little cleaner and a little better workflow. We do need to keep in mind that these are all tied together, right? Put a hole in one, all of them are going to get the same hole. And seeing that, if I go back here, I'm going to pop a hole in this one. Not that big of a hole, of course. Travis, I see your message up there, man. I'll get to you here in a second. But as soon as I added that hole, notice how every single other one has gotten that hole, right? So as we were talking about, I'm going to go ahead and remove this hole right now. I do not need that. But as you can see, I went ahead and created that first ring. This is where I might do a bulk copy and paste. Now I'm using Control-C, Control-V. And the cool thing about this is knowing my dimensions right off the start, I can slide that back and then I could set a pivot point at center, hitting done, and I could rotate everything 45 degrees. So if you're looking at this ring right now, I've now offset my second ring 45 degrees in rotation, keeping with the conventional numbering scheme, 1, 2, 3, all the way down to 8, right? So that would be, in theory, my very first ring that I need to go ahead and make. Now, if I wanted to make multiple of these rings, we can very simply up the ante even more. Now, this is a really neat trick for a lot of you out there. This is why the component side of things is so great, is if I create a component, I'm just going to say this is complete ring. I want this to be nested under the parent, which is why you see the trommel highlighted. And now I want to place all of these down inside of that component. So now we are getting much more back. Homer was asking about the component side of things is we have our file cabinet. We have a drawer in that file cabinet. And now we have all of our lovely file folders. And inside each one of those file folders, we of course have our documentation, our information as needed, right? So again, this is our complete ring. I can now take that entire component. Again, I'm just doing a copy and paste here. Helps if you activate the top, Control C, Control V for Victor. And then from that, I could start to place these along the way. Now, one thing I could also do, as you guys have saw, we could use the good old fashioned pattern technique as well. Taking that first ring, we want to go down our axis. Again, I know wrong axis, of course. Let's go ahead and fix that real quick. This axis. Go the other way. Again, total extent is going to be 48 inches. And we want 4 of those. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and type in -48 so that it pushes it away from us. So at this point, we now have 4 rings. Each ring has 8 separate components. Actually, they're 8 linked together components because it's all the same quantity. So if I go ahead and hit save here, we're going to go ahead and save this file. And then from this, we could go ahead and do quite a bit of things to this. Now, I want to show you guys this because if I jump over to the drawing side of things, we're going to make a drawing of this entire item. Now, the idea of a copy and paste of a specific component is where, as you guys heard me say, we're going to create what is referred to as a multiple quantity type of situation. Now, give me one sec here. We're going to go ahead and get this maybe orientated in semi-right direction. Let's make her a little bigger here. Let's go 1 by 15. We could take it up to possibly 1 by 10. Beautiful. And for everybody at home, let's make it a nice shaded color. So when I was to create an actual table, and this table is going to basically tell me everything about this part, right? So as you can see, right now it's telling me quantity 1 or quantity 4. So I have 4 rings from item 1, right? So item 1, 4 rings. If I jump into another file here, I could then place my base component. Again, we're just going to look at this isometrically. Makes it a little easier on everybody. And again, we only want 1 of those. If I add another table, as you're going to be able to see, we need to go ahead and say table. I now have item 1 quantity of 8, right? Because there's 8 parts inside of that 1 ring. So again, this is the luxury of working inside of Fusion. We could also say, instead of 1 level, all levels, right? So again, as you're seeing now, with everything built out, we can go ahead and change and add in different things as well. So again, on one drawing, we now have item 1 is quantity 4, which means we have 4 rings. Item 1.1 consists of 8. So 1.1 is 8, 8 times 4, yada, yada, yada. I don't want to do the math for you guys. I still have shoes on. Can't count past 10 unless I take my shoes off, right? So again, the idea of how we copied and pasted those components affects our quantities on our BOM. So now let's go one step further. Let's go ahead and do some nesting here. We're going to go ahead and open up one more file. I'm going to go into the manufacturer workspace. We're going to jump over to fabrication and let's go get our parts for nesting. So what you guys are going to see is we're going to add this in. Now, the luxury of being able to add this in means I can add multiple things in for nesting. So as you're seeing here, I now have the trommel. I have all of my parts inside of there, all of my quantities, everything as such. Let's go ahead and hit OK. We're going to create our nest study. As you're going to see is we have our source file. We can change our actual quantities here. Let's start by making one nest and then let's come back and start to play around with this more. So I'm going to go into packing. This is actually going to come out of a certain size sheet. As you can see, it's got length, width, sizes here. We could, of course, edit this and change this as well. But I would like to get a nest to start with. So as you're seeing, our very first sheet, we're going to need quantity 5, and you can see how it stacked this up. And then we're going to need 2 additional sheets with this profile here. Now, this is all controlled by our actual material that we're using in the nest, right? So again, we could go ahead and edit our nest study. We have our packing here. Again, we could start to do inventory control, things like that. So let's add in a new kind of packing. It's been a minute since I've had to do this, of course, as you guys may or may not guess. And I got to remember where we're at. We got process material library, of course. We're seeing that aluminum. We're seeing here's the actual aluminum. Here is our packing size. If we switch this out to a 48 by 96 inch sheet, as you can see, we can even change the cost. Let's say it's $132 a piece, right? Again, we hit OK. We get our warning. We're going to go ahead and regenerate all of that. Now you're looking at a sheet 3, which is quantity 1, and it has all of my rib pieces on it in one clean, quick motion, right? But the neat thing about this is if we went back to our trommel at any time, we could, of course, continue our process. We add a new component in here. This is going to be, you know, the rails. And you guys are going to see me do this a little different this time because I'm going to add an additional. This is just going to be the rail. So rails is the grouping of individual rails. I create my sketch. I can pick my plane or my face. Oh, wrong plane here. Let's bump that back. We're going to look at this straight on. I'm going to project just one of these edges so that I can build just like you guys saw me do the first time. Lovely little rectangle up here. We're going to keep this in fashion with everything else. Let's say it's 1/2 inch. And we're going to cut this out of the plywood too, possibly. So let's say 3 inches across. Again, tie that up horizontally, vertically. Actually, not horizontal, vertical. Coincidence. My fault, guys. And just like that, we check our sketch and we are fully constrained. Again, we now do our extrude minus 48 inches. And again, we have our sketch, we have our body, all relying in that one component. And just like you guys saw me do the first time, we go ahead and take that component. We're going to do our circular pattern of the component, which is the rail. We're going to do that based on center, the number that we want. Just like that, we now have 6 rails inside of the rails component. Again, we have our ribs, right? So again, let's say we want to relabel this. I'm going to go in, rename rib. And notice how all of those ribs have updated, right? We hit our save. We go back all the way over to either our drawing. As you're going to notice, the drawing needs to update. We go ahead and tell it to update that drawing. We're now seeing our bubble drawing come through again. We're getting those additional things. Also, we go back to our nest. Our nest needs to be updated in real time as well. So again, we go ahead and update all. Tons of room still left on this 4x8 sheet plywood. I got really lucky with my dimensions when I guessed. Go ahead and close, regenerate our nest. And as you guys can see, still one sheet of plywood that has everything and anything on it. So now let's get into the real fun here of toolpathing something like this. I'm also going to edit my nest study here a little bit. Including a 3D fixture, including a fixture in 3D milling. Are you talking there, Scott, about some self-clearancing fixtures? Go ahead and let me know. So again, we have our shapes coming through. We have our packing. Now, again, I wanted to just show you guys that you could do things like increase, decrease how hard this thing is going to work to calculate. Do you want to minimize length, width? How do you want to squeeze this in on your sheet? Always fun to do. What we're going to do is I'm actually going to kick on include stock too. And the reason for that is now you guys can see we are getting this lovely line that I could actually cut this piece down and save material on. But we need to change how close these parts are together if I'm utilizing like a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch cutter, right? So again, let's go ahead, go back to our process material library, go into our packings. Actually, we don't need to be in our packing. We need to be in our material. And as you're going to see here is I can go over and I can adjust quite a bit of things here. Again, the packing size. In this case, what I'm looking for, outside frame, separation between parts. Let's bump that up to 5/8 of an inch. We're going to also do 5/8 of an inch on the outside of our sheet. Again, we can allow additional deviations too. So this is really cool at the end of the day is let's say I actually, normally it's just rotating it within the 90 degrees, right? 90, 80, 270, and 0. I could actually say I would like a deviation of 1 degree in increments of 1 degree as well. And it will really start to pack these down and get them closer and closer. Again, we hit our OK. We, of course, are going to regenerate. We're not going to see a ton of difference here. We did see our parts space out a little bit more because of our spacing in our frame. One other thing we can do is if we edit our nest study, customer comes back to us, or in my case, I am going to make 5 of these total assemblies. And we're going to go ahead and hit OK. You're going to see my nest recalculate one more time. Just like that, quantity of 2 of these sheets, quantity of 2 of these sheets, and one last sheet as such. So you're seeing this in real time, me do multiples of 1 full assembly as well. Trying to machine the part, but it is including the fixture in the overall stock size definition. Scott, that sounds to me like you have the fixture selected as the model. You're using manufacturer model. Okay. Scott, what is it exactly that you are machining, if you don't mind me asking? I would need to know, is this like a CNC mill or is this a router thing? Because most people that use manufacturer model, it's really only working really well, as you could see in real time here, for nesting. It is not a good thing to use in the CAM side of things, which is probably where a lot of your, or not CAM, milling, like CNC milling, it is not good to use manufacturer model. Nesting is a part of the manufacturer extension. So if you guys didn't know, they actually changed up the way they call it. It's now called the manufacturer extension. It has machining and nesting all rolled into one. Yeah, Scott, so if you're doing 3-axis milling, buddy, I would highly recommend not using manufacturer model at all. We have several videos on this as well. If you want to shoot us an email, that info email address in the description, we'll go ahead and take care of that for you. And we can help walk you through a couple better workflows. Cool. So as you guys can see, this is the neat thing about this is, one, in the world of nesting, I'm able to make multiples of something very quick. It automatically nested out. If we, again, just go back, this is where things get wild, right? Harebrained ideas from yours truly. I'm going to change my original rail. This actually isn't 1/2 inch. We're going to make these out of 3/4. Again, because that is now a different size material. And again, you could do it by different types of material, different size materials. Everything that you're doing can be affected by that. We're going to go ahead and update this. Give her a sec here. Close that out. And then we're going to regenerate our nesting study. And what you're going to see is we are now going to have 2 completely different nests, which means these are 2 different sheets, right? So again, we need, for the rib size things, we need all of these and 1 extra. We now need all of these and 1 extra. Remember, because of our spacing and the way things are laid out, this is causing some of our problems in our nest, right? So again, we can edit this nest individually. We can set up different override parameters. Again, I'm going to override the study. We're going to minimize length and width. And then what you're going to see is we can regenerate that, and we should be able to squeeze that guy down and hopefully get those all onto 1 sheet. And we can't, because if you're 48 inches long with a 5/8 gap on the outside, and that being said, this sheet's only 48, that's where we're running into this. Cool. Any other questions? It looks like we fell off on our view count a little bit here. I got a text message here. I got to go ahead and check in on this. All right. Can a manufacturing model be exported? So you can export the stock as you've done your CAM throughout the process. Yes, Scott. So on the CAM portion of nesting, here's something really, really neat for a lot of you out there is this is where I can go in and create my setup from the manufacturer model. As you guys can see, you have your XYZ, depending on how your router is defined. Again, model orientation, the models themselves are coming from the nest study. My stock is coming from the solid we've already generated. Let's go ahead and hit yes. Need to go back and fix that. So again, oh, there we go. It did pull it automatically. Beautiful. So if I wanted to cut these in and out real quick and easy, this is where I can go back to my milling side of things. Need to fix my setup because we're doing milling, not cutting, of course. Now I go back, I do my 2D contour, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that lower rail, as you can see, and let's go ahead and grab our tool. Just going to use a 1/2 inch cutter, nothing fancy here. And from that, we could go ahead and create our toolpath, right? What I need to do is figure out why my stock isn't turning off. So let's go ahead and go in. And I know why it's not turning off. It's because This is pulling everything inside of this manufacturer model, which includes the top body that is stock. Autodesk, can you please fix that where that one stock body doesn't sit here at the top? Can we make it so that that one is excluded so I don't have to unselect it? But what you guys are looking at now, of course, is I'm cutting out that outside profile. Now, the neat thing about this is when we do our chain selection, right? I can actually, instead of utilizing the edges themselves, this is kind of the neat way that we can go in and we can pick the top face. And from that top face, you can actually go out and pick everything on the same plane. Again, as you're seeing this in real time, we could then say cut it to model bottom. And just like that, I'm achieving cutting out that entire sheet and everything on it, right? So again, super neat, completely different way to look at this at the end of the day is just like that. I've gone through and I've very quickly nested out all of those ribs for manufacturing. I've put them on different size sheets with different size materials even. I have that ability to review that information if I needed to as well. Again, you guys are seeing that over here on the left. It's giving me costing, roll up, utilizations, things like that. Cool. Do you guys have any other questions out there? Let me go ahead and check the ticket system, of course. Got missed phone calls coming in, all kinds of fun stuff going on. Come out here and try to do this stuff for you guys, make you guys happy. Hopefully send you off on your way on Friday feeling a little better than normal, right? Awesome. So, I don't see any questions out in chat. I did see a few more people just come in here. If you guys have any questions or any problems going on right now, feel free to let us know in chat. If not, I got to hit you guys with it. You guys know you can move your software over to us at JIT CAD CAM. It's another way that you can help support our actual channel. It can help support our company. We have the ability, as you guys can see, is regardless of what your software says, as you guys will see on this one here, by example, says subscription ID. We can also work if it says contract ID as well. We'd love to have you guys as a customer. Come on over, make it our day. It's not what you guys know. It's who you know, and you all know yours truly over here at JIT CAD CAM, and that is Fusion Fill, of course. Feel free to reach out to us at any time if you guys have questions. Leave a comment down below if you like what you saw today. Feel free to like, subscribe, anything and everything. We're always happy to be here for you guys and to help you out any way we can. And with that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I don't know if I will see you guys next Friday. We might be off next Friday. Of course, great reason to get notifications from our channel, right? You'll know whether or not I am, whether or not I make a free support Friday next week. So again, guys, have a great weekend. Get back to it Monday morning.